Hi, I am Sam Yogi. Today is September 13th, 2025. Welcome back to the Krishnamurti podcast. This is episode 49. In today's episode, we shall continue with the talk given by Krishnamurti at Oman, the Netherlands on July 30, 1933. Krishnamurti. So to overcome the suffering, we resort to forgetfulness because most people are caught in suffering. With that suffering, with that continued uncertainty and lack of comprehension, which created a void and emptiness, we are all the time trying to forget it, to run away from it, or trying to conquer it through self-discipline. This forgetfulness, this running away or disciplining oneself further increases that duality, and then there is that strain of conquest and the battle takes place. This is a process each one goes through consciously or unconsciously. The result is that you have set up an end to be conquered, which you consider to be true, an ideal of perfection, of God, of truth, of life, and you are always training to discipline yourself, to conquer it, to train your mind, to dwell constantly on that idea and to function in it. So you create in your mind a duality, an observer, a controller, and the thing which is observed and controlled. So you develop a higher mind and a lower mind, a higher emotion and a lower emotion, because your mind is suffocated, gripped in this duality. So you develop a higher mind and a lower mind, a higher emotion and a lower emotion, because your mind is suffocated, gripped in this duality. So let's pause here and try to understand how is the combination of the higher mind and the lower mind related to the duality of the controller and the controlled, or the observer and the observed. Krishnamurti is explaining that the creation of a higher mind and lower mind is a direct result of the duality of the controller and the controlled. The problem is we suffer and feel empty, so we try to escape it. As Krishnamurti said, with that suffering, with that continual uncertainty and lack of comprehension, we created a void, an emptiness. We are all the time trying to forget it, to run away from it, or trying to conquer it through self-discipline. This forgetfulness, this running away, or disciplining oneself further increases that duality, and then there is that strain of conquest and the battle takes place. So we suffer and feel empty and try to escape it. That's the problem. So the methods of this escape are forgetfulness, which is distracting ourselves with pleasure, with social media, with movies, etc. The second method is running away, escaping the feeling. So it's more of the same. We run away from the feeling, we don't stay with it, we go and try to forget it, like the first point, and go and busy ourselves, for example, with Facebook, chatting with someone, or what have you. Number three, the method is self discipline, or we discipline ourselves. Oh no, I should not waste time on social media. I should not watch so much. I should not binge watch, say, Netflix. And we try to conquer the suffering through self discipline. So, the creation of duality, the self discipline is the key. When you try to discipline yourself, you create an end to be conquered, an ideal like truth or perfection. You then strain to conquer it, to control yourself. So, what is the observer and the observed, which will be a recurring theme in our Krishnamurti podcasts? And if you start listening to the Krishnamurti videos on YouTube, or start reading one or more of the Krishnamurti books, the observer and the observed will come out. The act of self control immediately creates a split in your mind. There is the you who is doing the controlling, that is the observer or the controller, and the you who is being controlled and observed, the mind that is suffering. So then, what is the higher mind and lower mind? The higher mind is the controller, the part of you that holds the ideal and tries to enforce discipline. It is the good part. The lower mind is the controlled, the part that is struggling, suffering, and needs to be disciplined. It is the bad or the imperfect part. In essence, the duality of the controller and the controlled is the process, and the higher mind and lower mind is the result, the structural division within the mind that this process creates. It's the mind suffocated, gripped in this duality. So you develop a higher mind and a lower mind, as Krishnamurti says. A higher emotion and a lower emotion, because your mind is suffocated, gripped in this duality. So let's continue a little bit with what Krishnamurti says next, and then we shall try to understand it. Krishnamurti says, hence, naturally, there is a continual disharmony which creates conflict, and you are caught up in this circle. That is what is happening. This is obvious. That is what is taking place in each one. This establishment of an idea, which we call truth or God, which is impossible because You cannot understand it. You cannot picture it as a whole until you are completely free of it. You can have an occasional glimpse, but if you cling to that glimpse, you are destroying the full comprehension of the present. So let me stop here and repeat this part because this brings up a lot of questions. Krishnamurti says, hence, naturally there is a continual disharmony which creates conflict, and you are caught up in this circle. That is what is happening, that is obvious. That is what is taking place in each one. This establishment of an idea which we call truth or God, which is impossible because you cannot understand it, you cannot picture it as a whole until you are completely free of it. You can have an occasional glimpse, but if you cling to that glimpse, you are destroying the full comprehension of the present. So, the questions that arise, free of what? What is impossible? Occasional glimpse of what? Truth? And how does that destroy the full comprehension of the present? So, free of what? Krishnamurti is saying you cannot understand the whole of truth or God until you are completely free of it. He means free of the idea, the picture, the concept you have created of it. The moment you name it, define it, or create an ideal of it, you have already limited it and separated yourself from it. The freedom he is talking about is the freedom from these mental constructs and the effort to achieve them. It is the freedom from the dualistic process of striving for an idea. So, let's go through this sentence which uses the word free from Krishnamurti. Krishnamurti says, that is what is taking place in each one. This establishment of an idea which we call truth or God, which is impossible because you cannot understand it. You cannot picture it as a whole until you are completely free of it. Free of what? Free of the idea, the picture, the concept you have created of it. I think this should be clear, and if not, please feel free to listen to the podcast again. Now, what is impossible? The talk states that it's impossible to understand it. You cannot picture it as a whole until you are completely free of it. So, the it here is truth or God. It's impossible to grasp the whole of what Krishnamurti refers to as truth or God because our mind with its dualistic nature is not capable of it. Our concepts and ideas are always fragmented based on our past experiences and knowledge. Therefore, any ideal we create is just a projection of our own mind, not the reality in itself. So that is what he means by the word impossible. As Krishnamurti says, and let me repeat it so that you get it, that is what is taking place in each one, the establishment of an idea which we call truth or God, which is impossible because you cannot understand it. You cannot picture it as a whole until you are completely free of it. So, what is impossible? The talk says it is impossible to understand it. You cannot picture it as a whole until you are completely free of it. Free of it here is the God. And it's impossible to grasp the whole of what he refers to as truth or God because the mind is not capable of it. Our concepts and ideals are always fragmented based on our past experience and knowledge. So, any ideal we create is just a projection of our own mind, not the reality of itself. Now, a couple of questions remain. Occasional glimpse of what? I mean, you can guess what he means when he says, when Krishnamurti says, you can have an occasional glimpse, but if you cling to that glimpse, you are destroying the full comprehension of the present. So the occasional glimpse is a glimpse of that very truth or reality you are striving for. It is a moment of insight, a flash of pure understanding that happens when the mind is quiet, not trying to achieve anything. It's a moment when the observer and the observed merge and there is no duality. Now, again, he said, you can have an occasional glimpse, but if you cling to that glimpse, you are destroying the full comprehension of the present. So, how does that destroy the full comprehension of the present? This is the central point. When you have an occasional glimpse, you get excited and try to hold on to it. You create a memory of it and an ideal of recreating that moment. Now listen with attention. You now have a new goal, a new ideal to strive for, the memory of that glimpse. Pay attention. The central point is when you have an occasional glimpse, you get excited and try to hold on to that glimpse. You create a memory of that glimpse and an ideal of recreating that glimpse, that moment when you had that glimpse. You now have a new goal, a new ideal to strive for, the memory of that glimpse. This immediately re-establishes the duality of the controller. Who is the controller? You, the one who wants that memory back, that feeling back, and the controlled, the mind that needs to be disciplined to get back there. So by clinging to the glimpse, you are no longer paying attention to the present moment. You are constantly trying to compare the now with the memory of that glimpse, which is a past event. So this is what Krishnamurti means in the video, and there is a video on YouTube which says, have you woken up or are you still sleeping? I do not remember currently the title of that Krishnamurti video on YouTube, but in a future episode, I will name that video. There he says that if the past is overshadowing the present, if the past is covering the present, if the past is always acting, then you are still sleeping, you have not woken up to the present. If you have woken up to the present, and if you are living in the thrill and the ecstasy of the unknown, which is the present, for the present is the ever, or the present is ever the unknown. The past is the known. You don't know what is going to happen in the present. You say, no, I know what is happening, but you don't know what will happen the next moment. So, living from moment to moment, actually, as Krishnamurti says, dying to the past and living in the present every moment, dying and living go on simultaneously. Now, this may be scary if you are new to Krishnamurti, but that is the essence of the thrill of meeting life in its, with all your energy, with your mind and heart completely engaged, with the fullness of life, as we have discussed in our prior episodes. And you can listen to episode 33, I believe, 33, 34, 35, etc. This is episode 49. So, coming back to this talk, this striving, this effort to achieve a past state destroys your ability to comprehend what is actually happening in the present, which is the only place where true reality can be found, because the past is dead as dust. But everybody lives in the past. People like to discuss the past. I mean, I have a friend from a dorm years in the past, and he wants to go back to those stories. He wants me to visit him so that he can drink and narrate those stories to me. But I have told him in so many ways, I am not interested. And I tell him, don't live in the past, live in the present. But he cannot understand. So the past is acting, he is fully asleep, and he will never wake up. It takes time to understand Krishnamurti and to wake up. But if you wake up, you will see that the present moment is a constant challenge which you have to face with all your might, with your mind and heart engaged. And you have to destroy various hindrances which suffocate you, which prevent you from meeting life. Hindrances like authority. The authority of a guru will hinder you. Authority of looking for security, or the hindrance of security or insecurity. If you have a sense of insecurity, then that stops you, that creates a barrier from acting fully, engaging fully in the present. If you have fear, that is anxiety for the results of what you are doing right now, that's a barrier. So these are barriers to meeting life fully, to making your action complete. That's what we are talking about. By clinging to the glimpse of the past, even if that glimpse was one of truth, one of, say, let's say, Kundalini awakening or what have you, one of ecstasy, you are no longer paying attention to the present moment. You are constantly trying to compare the now with the memory of that glimpse, which is a past event. This striving, this effort to achieve a past state destroys your ability to comprehend what is, or what is actually happening in the present, which is the only place where true reality can be found. Mostly it is found in grappling with the problems of the present. That is how great entrepreneurs, great go-getters, and great sages and great mystics have done it by living in the present. The present is constantly moving, fresh and new, but you are trying to freeze it with an idea from the past. So we end the podcast here. If you like the podcast, please spread the word amongst those who are spiritually inclined, who are interested in consciousness research or understanding philosophy of Kant, Spinoza, or what have you. And I frequently blog on past episodes at samrockcafe.wordpress.com, where I throw more light on the episodes and I reflect on it. I describe the key points and sometimes I give real world examples. For example, in the past, I have explored anxiety and applied the frameworks of Krishnamurti to anxiety to make it a little more clear. Also, there is another place where I write. It's a new space called substack.com. So my subdomain is Sam Yogi. So if you go to samyogi.substack.com and subscribe using your email ID, you can find a lot of writings. I hope you found something useful from the podcast today. The next podcast, we shall continue this fourth talk at Oman in the Netherlands given by J. Krishnamurti almost 100 years ago on July 30, 1933. Until then, live in the present, don't dwell in the past, reflect on what you listen to, and have a wonderful day.